You and to understand what we are looking at, Dr. Sameer Gupta, a medical consultant with us here at NDTV, is now joining us. Thanks very much, Dr. Gupta, for your time. I want to first ask you, what do you understand of this virus? And like Sneha said, and you were making the point earlier, we are calling it a new virus, but it's not really new in that sense. Like you've been saying, and she said too, we've heard of it being reported in India.
So, first and foremost, I can tell you that the Nipah virus, it's not a new virus, but it's what we call a rare virus.
I see.
When I say rare, I mean we know about it only for the last 20 years or so. And there have been, I would say, less than 500 cases reported worldwide of this virus. So that's why it's kind of new and it's rare. And it's not the first time we've had it in India. There have been reports of it infecting people in Bengal, and Bengal, like she mentioned, bordering Bangladesh. And there have been reports of these kind of outbreaks across the world, in Malaysia, in Bangladesh, etc. So there have been reports of this in the past, but they've been very isolated cases, like, 10 cases here, 20 cases here. The biggest one, when we actually identified the virus and we discovered the virus, so to say, was in 1999, and that had almost 300 cases. So we learned a lot during the outbreak as to what the virus is, how does it spread, and with every new outbreak we learn a little bit more.
I see. Now I understand that it's being called deadly. Is that because it's almost always fatal?
So, depending upon the outbreaks, the fatality report has been reported anywhere from 75% to 100%. So, depending upon which outbreak you're looking at, but it is very deadly and it does cause infection in people, in human beings. And as you can see, 3 out of 3 people died here. In the past also, a very high percentage of people have died. And what it does is it affects the brain. Typically you will have fevers, and then you'll have the typical viral infection, weakness, lethargy. And then
is that what makes it tougher? Because all these viruses, they all sound so similar. You feel the same way, and you don't know if it's just another bug or something more serious. I mean, be it swine flu or the or even dengue and all of this. Right. They just seem to mirror each other quite a bit.
You raise a great point, and that's pretty much how viruses infect. That's the first response of the body when it gets any infection. Right? It's like a little fever, a little lethargy, I don't feel so good, and then it starts playing havoc. With dengue, you'll have like dengue shock syndrome. You'll start having swelling and etc., and you'll start bleeding all over the place. In this condition, you can have encephalitis, which is a swelling of the infection, swelling in the lining of the brain, and you have drowsiness. You won't think straight, and the caregivers are like, this is not right. We need to take this person to the hospital now.
So that's a good tip. So if anything seems more than usual, or even if you have a doubt, better safe, I would imagine.
Better safe, but you also have to see, if somebody in Kashmir is having this, it's probably not. It's probably not the same thing, right? It's a very geographically limited disease, because this is a disease which we called zoonotic disease. It means that it affects animals, but if a human being gets it, the human being can also get the infection.
That's a great point. So you're saying that, in a sense, does it mean that it's easier to contain it, or how does it work? I mean,
so by zoonotic we mean if you control the animals, if you keep the animals safe and they are disease-free, then the chances of human beings getting the disease is lesser, right? Because the animal is, got the adequate antibiotic or whatever it is which is required.
I see.
But there have been case reports of human-to-human transmission also, whether that is because everybody was exposed to the same person or the same source, versus one infected person gave it to the other infected person. But that is something that is being understood, and we are trying to learn and know more about it as we speak.
Okay, so now that we have a central team there, what really is their mandate? They go in there and what are they going to try and do? How can this team then help contain it?
So the first and foremost thing that they will do is they will isolate the cases. Every person will be in isolation, because we are not 100% sure whether it's transmitted only from animal to human versus human to human transmission also. So I think all these people will be isolated. There'll be a detailed history which will be taken from their family members. The areas where they feel that could be the source of the infection, whether it was the well in the house of the person, or whether they were exposed to a fruit. Like, I'll give you an example. In Bangladesh, when this epidemic happened in 2001, and there were many odd cases that came out, it was not because of exposure to infected pigs, right? So let me step back. There are bats.
And pigs
a pig is an intermediate host, and then there is a human who can be infected.
I see.
So if you are exposed to an infected pig or a pig who's got this infection, then you will be at a risk of having this infection.
I see. Okay.
If you are exposed to a bat or bat droppings or bat excretion who is infected with this virus, then you have a chance of getting infection.
Right.
So in Bangladesh in 2001, it was not exposure to the pigs, but it was the pigs were feeding on a plant, and it was the dry sap of the plant was infected, and the people were probably consuming that the same thing, and they were getting infected with this.
I wanted to ask you one last question, and you know, this is the kind of conversation that comes up each time a new virus is reported. That everyone's saying, why suddenly in the last 3 decades are we hearing about so many new viruses? I mean, how does it work? I mean, are we suddenly hearing a lot more because we're a lot more informed and news gets around, or actually are new viruses coming up a lot more? Or are they sort of adapting and whatever, you know?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think also not only is it the diagnosis, our ability to identify the virus increased because of improved infrastructure, improved technology, improved medical science, but also these viruses tend to adapt, like you said. Like for example, the H1N1 virus. The H1N1 virus mutates. That is why if you get a swine flu vaccination this year or the influenza vaccination this year, it may not be applicable next year because the virus has mutated.
I see.
And that is the reason.
So you have to get those annual shots.
You have to get those annual shots, right? That's the thing about viruses, that viruses mutate very fast. And that is why, and viruses are very deadly. I mean, if you go think about it, some of the most deadly diseases in the world, whether it's hepatitis, whether it's HIV, they're all viral-borne diseases. And that is why when you go back and look at the history books, you see, you know what, there was an epidemic of flu, and half the population of the world
or some mysterious illness, as many of those books say. But this could be stuff like this that we're talking about.
Yeah, not in this case. I mean,
we're going back way into history. Yes, I see what you mean, where entire settlements really were wiped out. And well, I think that's where the challenge of medicine and science comes in, to stay one step ahead, or at least not get beaten by this virus. Thanks very much for your time, Dr. Sameer. Pleasure as always having you on the program. If you have any concerns or questions, send them to us and we'll try and get Dr. Sameer to answer them for you.